Hello and welcome to Dongomet channel. It's a Monday mo- Hello and welcome to Dongomet channel. It's a Monday morning, early Monday morning, and I have just spent I don't know how long writing a comment, and so that this comment that I've worked so hard on doesn't just go out to one person, so that I can share it with anyone who might be interested. I thought I would just read it right now. And this is in response to a question from Sam of Magnolia Grace Knives. He makes some very nice knives, um, kitchen knives I've seen, and other kinds of knives, no doubt. And he seems to admire my sharpening ability, which is very flattering. And he asked on my video, Mama Always Said, he asked, is this part of the technique you use for the paper towel cutting sharp? And so my response is as follows. Absolutely. I sharpen all my knives freehand. Sometimes I use power grinding equipment, especially a Tormac, but always according to the same principles. I don't like the shoulders that are formed by having a distinct primary and secondary bevels. Oops, I messed that up. So I blend them in. On a hollow grind, I may lay the blade flat, or as on this Walmart banger, stay off the upper shoulder. Everything behind the edge is half the equation of how well a blade cuts. It should be coherent with what is desired of the apex. And ideally, this should also be coherent with the handle as well, of course. And if a blade is out of alignment, I focus my stock removal efforts on improving that, often to the detriment of a nice stone-washed finish or what have you. When working the convex up to the apex, I rely on sensation, sound, and visual cues from my scratch pattern. I may use a steel or ceramic rod to briskly burnish behind the edge. This will reveal the lay of the land, as it were. I find a steel can help a lot with getting a very keen edge, but after the manner I describe here, I do not normally attempt to cut an apex with a steel, but I might use the steel to help deburr. Cutting cardboard is something I often have to do anyway, and I find that it can help to refine an apex with a sticky burr on, e.g., cheap stainless steels. So I might do a bit of that along the way, or strip poles, or whatever suits the knife. Edge use is edge modification, and using the knife gives feedback as to my progress in the venture. I find that having the convexed, aka Appleseed, edge makes any knife cut way better, and it makes it easier to hone and refine the apex. However, there isn't so much of a strict protocol as I suppose there must be using fixed angle systems or freehand sharpening to a consistent angle. Something I tend to do that might be unorthodox is to go up and down grits instead of stepping up sequentially. A bit of this, a bit of that, cutting test, a bit of the other, no worst, back to this and that, and so on. I switch variables a lot. Abrasives, angles along two axes or axes, XY, vary pressure on the Z axis, switch speeds and motions and so forth. Dance around a bit, as it were. It takes time to get the feel of the blade. If you made it yourself, perhaps that helps. Work by feel, feedback, and also a sort of visualization process, mentally mapping those slopes. Visualize the Appleseed form, the curves flatten out to the point. When I sharpen a knife, I don't just work the apex bevels. Well, I kind of obliterate that there being an apex bevel in the primary and secondary bevels. I work far more intensively behind the edge. I work a lot more behind the edge than spend on the edge itself. I don't want to stay off the edge as much as possible, really, and not stress it until you want to cut on that. I'm ad-libbing extra here. I work to rectify any warp, deep grind lines, or other aberrances in the grind. The apex should be straight. Often they're not, and it can cost considerable blade length in instances in order to obtain a straight apex, as when a blade is warped and the apex with it. The whole thing's got a curve in it. Cut straight. I get limited results from the carbide hammer, including occasional destructive results. Getting the apex right for me is also an intuitive matter. I try a bit of this, I try a bit of that. Again, changing media, grits, testing. Regarding honing, it has become tremendously popular, indeed ubiquitous, to employ for the final stage a leather strop impregnated with some kind of abrasive compound. We have some problems with this. One, people call it stropping. It is not. Stropping is the act of mechanically aligning the microserrations at the apex and or detaching any weakened serrations and or burr via mechanical fatigue, aka the paperclip effect. Back in the day, any good barber knew that to load a strop with compound was to ruin the strop, because stropping does not involve abrasion. What folks are calling stropping is in fact honing, edge trailing, on a soft-backed abrasive medium. 2. By honing on a soft-backed abrasive medium, it is practically impossible to achieve optimal results. Speaking perhaps somewhat ideologically, the way to get the very sharpest apex is to cut that fresh apex on something that cuts it just right. So you should be working with steel that has been subjected to the very minimum of mechanical stress. If the edge is well used, cut it off and start from a flat. Cut one side and then the other until you have an apex. Don't make a burr. My best apex cutter will vary from steel to steel and grind to grind. Some primary examples from the hand sharpening category are a Wustenhof 800 grit ceramic rod, the blue rod, a Falkneven 1000 grit diamond plate, extremely worn, a small Naniwa 1000 grit plate, diamond synthetic waterstone, and there's a piece of slate off my roof as well. Works well. Using a bastard strop, that's a strop loaded with abrasive compound, will refine a burr out of existence. Yet it will inevitably induce a convex in the one place that, as the apple seed form shows, we really don't want it. We have heard that in sharpening, consistency of angle is key. I question this wisdom only inasmuch as my sharpening method relies very heavily on inconsistency of angle, as I above described. Because if you're making an apple seed, you're not making a consistent angle throughout the act of sharpening. However, at the very cutting apex, that ought to be the most refined part of any knife by orders of magnitude. We require consistency. Honing edge trailing on a soft-backed abrasive medium deprives us of this consistency. It will always exert a rounding influence, however subtle, on that apex that we have worked so hard to attain via the creation and refinement of everything behind it. So here is a departure of method from what I see as the norm. Don't make a burr and refine it later on, a soft-backed medium. If you get a burr, remove it and keep making fresh apex. Always minimize burr and refine apex. I do use bastard strops and the marvelous honing wheel on the Tormek, often to good effect, but all my working edges are fresh off a stone, so to speak, something hard. And likewise, if I want to make an exhibition cut, almost guaranteed what I did was use the honing wheel and then recut after, ever so subtly a tiddly fresh, micro weeny apex onto that ever so gently blown out apex. The long and short of it is, I hardly know what I'm doing, but I certainly take my time over it. I defer to the great Cliff Stamp and my buddy Glenn of Knife Sharpening Norway channel. In these matters, I have learned a lot from their channels. Thanks for listening. It's a long comment, 10 minutes, bye.